Welcome to the GMBN Tech Show. Now, I've got some bad news for you. Doddy's on a trip. So you've got me and Chris Smith.
Trying to do our best.
We're going to do our best. Now, Doddy has sent us some stuff to tell you all about, all right? We are not tech level at Doddy's standard, right? But we love our bikes just like you, so we're going to go through it all. We're going to be talking about Lone Bicycles Parabellum, and we've got the Trust linkage fork that you can now demo in the States. Good job too, because it cost about $3,000.
We're also taking a look at the new saddles from SDG and taking a look also at the new Revel bikes. Really cool, interesting stuff from those guys.
Absolutely. We've got all the stuff you've been sending in too, so let's get going. It's the GMBN Tech Show. Right, let's get going with tech news. And first up from Lone Bicycles, the Parabellum. Basically like a modular system, this bike, where you can fit in 27.5 wheels, 27.5 plus, and 29-inch wheels all into the one bike with keeping the optimum geometry. Yes. Is that even possible?
It's looking good. And they're using the NAST or NAST system, which is an eccentric bottom bracket. So if you don't know what an eccentric bottom bracket is, it's basically used on a single-speed jump bike or a hardtail, which allows the bottom bracket to rotate so you can alter chain tension on a single-speed bike. But in this instance, they've used it so you can run 29 or 27.5, either higher or lower in the geometry on the bottom bracket. Also, they've got a 20mm flip chip as well, so you can slide the chainstay, make it shorter or longer, to
suit that wheel size change.
Suiting what you're doing.
Yeah, so, nice. It says here 159mm to 163mm travel, depending if you use a standard shock or metric shock. Chainstay is adjustable, like Chris said. Head tube angle of 65.5. And we've got a seat tube angle of 74.8. It says 425mm reach on the medium and 472 for an XL. So they do have Doddy size and conservative geometry. So what they're going with. Yeah, conservative geometry. So they've not gone long and slack as far as you can go.
Tight and steep like a cross-country bike. Nice in the middle. Also, there's a couple of options as well. You can get a frame only option with a shock, which is $199 or $2,000 pretty much. And there's options for full bikes, $3,500 to $4,899.
Right, new saddle from SDG, the Radar mountain saddle. Now they've combined some of their famous saddles, the circuit mountain, the fly mountain, and the Duster P mountain saddles, all blended into one here, all of their features.
Picking the best options, right?
Absolutely. Free float comfort flex, so basically the rail inserts increase wing flex, so it's got a bit of flexibility to it. There's a cutout in the saddle, so your perineum has got less support, which is good.
Another real nice touch on this saddle is the rear buzz cutout. You might have noticed on those long travel 29ers that when you're bottoming out on big stuff that you're going to get a bit of seat buzz on the back tyre. So they've cut a notch out the back of the saddle to allow that long travel 29er to come up. There's not buzz in the saddle. Also, they've got the optimal pressure distribution. It's a platform designed to minimise pressure on both your perineum and sit bones. 3 different options, got chrome ollie, steel rails and Thai alloy rails as well, ranging from $49.99 to $99.99.
For the Thai alloy one, and I tell you what, you have got pro perineum pronunciation going on there. It's very impressive, yes. Right, let's take a look at this new Trust linkage fork. Right, the Trust linkage fork. Now, this is designed by Dave Weigel. We'll come to that in a second. But basically, you can demo this fork now in the States, which is really great, right? Because it costs $2,700 to buy, and it is very different looking. It's like dramatically different looking fork and system. But now you can spend $100 to have this fork on your bike for 5 days, test it out. And they reckon it's going to transform your fork on front suspension.
Yeah, so it's like a linkage fork. It's being designed by Dave Weigel, that has input into it. So if you don't know who Dave Weigel is, he's designed loads of different suspension systems.
It does look really, really cool.
Full carbon, super lightweight.
Yeah, I mean, basically it means you keep a kind of linear travel through the shock. It really helps maintain the correct geometry. But yeah, it's one of those things that I certainly wouldn't be spending that sort of money on without really being confident.
Actually reminds me of
needs it.
Yeah, definitely. I think back in the day, AMP Research did a fork quite similar to this, a kind of linkage fork, but it was known for quite a lot of like brake dive. As soon as you pull the front brake, the suspension would squash, obviously steepening the head angle. So some people didn't like it, some people loved it. So definitely go along, check one one out. It's only available in the States at the minute as well.
Yeah, but this demo idea is really, really great.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, brand new brand, Revel Bikes. Actually, in the UK, Revel Bikes is a brand that's already existed, but this is a completely different brand, Colorado-based.
Yeah.
Started by Adam Miller, who's got an all-star team, including Jason Shears, who is the founder of Envy.
Nice, got a bit of carbon experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, bikes come with Canfield Brothers licensed suspension design. So that's the Canfield Balance formula. Yeah, it's a very cool looking bike.
Yeah, there's a couple of different options. As Mark said, they're all carbon frames. You've got the Rail, which is a 27.5 wheel bike. So that's a 165 mil travel on the rear. And then you've got the 29er called the Rascal, and that's 130 mil travel on the rear as well. Both models are up-to-date geometry, but they're not pushing any crazy geometry towards you. You know, you're not talking super slack and long chainstays or slack head angles. These are all sort of up-to-date, but nothing crazy. Frames start at $2,599, and the complete bikes start at $5,000. Real nice bit about this is that they all come with Evoc travel cases, so you get an Evoc bike bag instead of a big bike box. So they're trying to do their best for the environment. So if you buy a bike, you get a nice travel case too.
That is a wicked idea.
Really cool.
I don't know why that hasn't happened more often. So now you said that's such an obvious idea. Yeah, more brands should be doing that. Right, it is time for one of my favourite bits of the tech show when I'm watching Doddy do it. It's the bike cave. Okay, bike cave time, and first one is from Brandon, who is in Denver, Colorado. He has got a Transition Smuggler plus his girlfriend's Stump Jumper. Home for all his outdoor stuff here in the bike cave, the place where I work on and store all my bikes. Best part is I can still fit 2 vehicles in it. He has got lots of space, a big old garage, isn't it? One day he says he'll paint it. He hasn't got around to it yet, but he's got a nice screen in there for watching Doddy. Look,
it does look good, doesn't it? It's an amazing setup, and I can't believe how many different sports this guy must do. Look, snowboards, skis, got bikes, lawnmowers, you name it, it's all in the garage. And nice marbles.
Briggs and Stratton engine on that lawnmower? No, I don't think it is.
6.7 horsepower one, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's Briggs and Stratton, which is a bad move. This is Geordie's setup in Catalonia in Spain. Since I'm only 18, I'm living in a flat with my parents. The space for bikes, tools and spare parts is quite limited, as you can see, Chris. It's very, very tight.
Yeah.
So I keep my bike and riding gear behind the sofa in my living room. How do you get away with that?
I feel his pain.
How's he getting that past mum and dad? That's a good one, that is. You can see the handlebars sticking out all the time. For that reason, I have to keep my old Santa Cruz Blur out in the balcony. Don't like the sound of that.
No.
But he's got his tools in there.
Yeah.
He's got his. But I like how it's near the old cabinet there with all the china in. If there's one thing that doesn't want to be near the tools and the bike,
it definitely reminds me of when I lived over with my parents. Literally, we took over the utility room. I remember having like 6 bikes in there all piled up against each other, helmets, spares all stacked up on the side. My mum used to go crazy. I think she actually fell over in there once and got stuck in between all the bikes out in the utility room, and I had to scream for me to come down and rescue her. But
that is brilliant. Well, I tell you what, Geordie, I think you're really pushing the boundaries of the word bike cave.
Yeah.
But thanks for sending it in nonetheless. If you've got a bike cave you'd like us to see, then go to the GMBN Tech uploader and you can send that stuff in so we can all have a look. Rewind! All the way back in time.
Where are we going back to? What year is this?
I tell you what, I like this a lot because we've had a great ProFlex sent in, which I really love. It's from Brent, who's got this amazing ProFlex 856. Sorry, is it 656? No, that's an 856. That's an 856. And I tell you what, I used to have one of these.
Did you?
Yeah, I love this bike. This was my first downhill bike.
Right.
I raced a British Downhill Series on it. I raced at Malvern's on it. I actually did the last double jump. Right, and crashed. I did a jump. I jumped the road gap, landed with the bars a bit bent, and then skewed off straight into the crowd and knocked someone out. Yes, knocked them clean out with my head. Yeah, so I've got good memories of one of those bikes.
I can imagine. It's definitely on my wish list when I was starting out. I remember seeing these out in the shops where they're just a bit out of my price point, but I love these bikes. Yeah,
very nice. And unfortunately, Brent saying that the 856 did break in the end.
Did it?
Yeah, he's saying he broke the... now, what did he say? So, in the end, he broke the rear strut.
Right, like
but he said, but did you know they were actually glued in?
It's weird, isn't it? Bonded.
Yeah, don't like the sound of that.
But he swapped it out, right, for a Gary Fisher Joshua F3.
Yeah.
Now that is one bike I did have, actually.
Is it?
Yeah, the Joshua X1, I think it was a black one with Manitou forks. Didn't have the crazy Gervin. Well, I suppose he swapped the forks.
He swapped the Gervin onto that, yeah.
But I remember these. Is it Paolo Pezzo back in the day, Gary Fisher? I think she rode that exact
Paolo
bike.
Pezzo, yeah. She was world cross-country champion. Yeah,
back in the day.
She was cool, yeah.
She was super cool.
I don't know what I think about having that old Gervin fork on there. It's a bit of a weird look. But I like how you're keeping it all running, dude. I like that a lot.
The crazy thing with that Gary Fisher Joshua and all those bikes, I think Trek did a similar platform back in the day. It's got the URT, which is a unified rear triangle suspension system, meaning that it's not active when you're stood. So when you're out of the saddle, you need to actually be seated for that suspension to work. So quite a crazy design for the suspension system back then.
Or you could use another word like because the suspension system doesn't work when you're stood up. Doesn't really work for
anagram TURD.
Yeah. Hey, it was back in the day when suspension was new. All right, so you can't diss them for it. They were trying,
pushing the limits.
Yeah, that's the suspension system I need, isn't it? Yeah. Nick Larson, who runs Fabric and Cannondale now, he was telling me the other day about this system from back in the day. I'm saying that's what I need because I'm always seated.
Definitely.
So he's like, you need to go back in time for the right bike for me. Yeah.
Maybe try and find one of those Joshuas then.
Yeah, or got paralysed earlier. Next up, we've got Santa Cruz Blur. Nice. I like the look of this one a lot. Okay, this is from David, and he is in St. Charles, Illinois. Picked up this Blur frame while working in a bike shop about 17 years ago. Raced it for a few years, then had a baby. My original build had a prototype SRAM XO derailleur given to us by the Chicago rep. That's pretty cool. The perks of working in a dealership, that one. It had a 2x race face drivetrain. Recently switched it up to the 1x Eagle setup for his son. It still sports the original Raceface Next crank set and titanium bottom bracket. Guy had all the kit on it.
It's loads, isn't it?
Yeah, 26-inch Mavic Crossmax XL wheel set, which he says in brackets, bomb-proof. He's literally never had to true these wheels. Once, he said. Chris King knot thread set and no thread. Sorry, no thread set. I don't know what that one is, to be honest, the Chris King no thread set.
So it's like an old school, I think it's the first of like the A headsets, so the first threadless headset.
First ones, okay. Do you remember back in the day those really old headsets? When it all got loose, you could just give it a few twists.
Turn on the headset cup. But I think that's one of the first A headsets at Chris King. It was like an expensive one back then.
Yeah, thanks Chris, you got me through that.
Pretty loaded up, this bike. It's crazy to look back actually, this bike is only 15, 17 years old, but how short and how steep it is as well. But I mean, with all those parts on, it's still like a super competitive bike out on the trails. I remember like the Fifth Element shock and stuff like that. But yeah, real nice bike to look back on.
Yeah, I bet that still rides.
I bet it still rides.
Pretty sweet, that one actually.
Definitely. It said 13-year-old boys passed it down to should be loving it out on the trails. Imagine that. 13, a bike like that.
That is some nice rewind bikes. Okay, time for top mods, and we've got Johannes who sent in this very cool Scott Nitrous.
Really
cool. He's done an amazing job on this. Basically, he got himself a new YT Capra, and his son's like, hang on a minute, Dad, where's my new bike? With a €400 budget, he has totally refurbed this Scott Nitrous that now looks really cool. He's proper gone to town.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, Nitromorphs the frame, so he's stripped all the paint off and gone right through the bike, resprayed it, new graphics, new forks, a new bar. The whole drivetrain is just brought it up to like a new looking bike basically. It's got all new XT stuff on there, new XT cassette, up to date tyres, suspension, and literally transformed that bike. For that budget. He says it's cost him a little bit more, but for that cost. 13.
Look at him. Look at his son there, looking well chuffed with it. Yeah. Very nice.
Nice job on that.
It is a transformation. That is.
Top job on that.
I'd be proud to be racking that down the trails. He's got to be worried though. He said his son's going to be catching him up soon, so he's got to be careful.
He's get training. Very
nice modifications. Right, cool bike to look at here, the Lapier AGST.
Yeah.
Now, this is cool, using the Fazua Evasion battery system, which I guess is the bit that I'm really interested in. What do you think about this, Chris? Because it's kind of like a module system where you can take the battery out and the kind of like drive motor itself, replace that section of the frame with a bit of support, and then basically you can ride it as a non-e-bike.
Yeah, so when you're out hitting the trails with like your non-e-bike friend, you could just take that bike. I think it weighs, it's pretty lightweight. It's about
just over 15 kilos.
15.3 kilos, yeah, and 18.4 kilos with a battery. So yeah, a lightweight bike, and it's also a really lightweight e-bike. You know, for e-bikes, we're generally talking sort of just over 20 kilos, 20 to 23 kilos is your average e-bike weight, but this is coming in, just over that, so just under that, so it's super lightweight with that option to remove the battery. I think it's pretty good, but it's the Fazua system isn't as powerful as like a full-on 250 watt motor. It's a little bit less. It's 60 newton meters torque is available from the system, so it isn't quite as punchy as things like the Specialized, which is like 90 newton meters torque, but then it is slightly less, and obviously it's got big range for such a small battery, 250 watt hour battery.
So let me get it straight, right? So your normal e-bike, that's gonna have like 500 watt plus battery. This has got basically like a 250 watt battery. But because it's so lightweight, you're still getting that good range.
Yeah, they're talking, I think it said 50k, so about 35 mile range on it. So it's pretty
decent.
Yeah, for a small battery.
Yeah, but it definitely sits sort of midway between a mountain bike and an e-bike. Yeah. It's not got that torque of a full-on e-bike, but you have got the kind of assistance. So what do you think? Is it a good way to dabble in?
I think so. I think Steve spent a lot of time on this bike as well, and he was saying it was just like riding a standard mountain bike, but with like eco assistance. So it's not crazy, as you mentioned. You're not going to be like sticking it in a turbo mode and flying up like a super steep rock face. Yeah. But it's definitely more powerful than a standard mountain bike, and I think to dabble your toes in it is good. But I would go for either one or the other. You know, I think I'd either go right in for a full-on e-bike or just a normal trail bike. It depends where you live and what sort of trails you're riding, but it's definitely a good option for sure. It's kind of two bikes in one. Yeah,
Steve Jones did say to me what was really interested about it is it's definitely cool. Once you're pedaling, you can really get through that point of not having the drag of an e-bike, so you can really ride it.
Yeah, above that limit. Sort of
above that limit, and it really feels like a normal bike. So that's really interesting. Definitely an interesting system and an exciting bike. So thank you for watching GMBN Tech News Show this week. Sorry Doddy wasn't here. He will be back soon, but we've tried our best to cover the fort. It's been fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been. I hope you guys have enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you stick with us here? You can see Angel Suarez's YT 2S 29er Pro bike just here. That's a great video and a lovely looking bike.
Yeah, and if you want to see me take on a cross-country pro, Grant Ferguson, who's 6-time national champion, against me on an e-bike, check out up here. A really cool video.
Yeah, that's a cracking video. You can click the globe to subscribe to GMBN Tech. Give us a thumbs up, like, and long live Doddy.